Give me another bebe. Give me a better bebe. Oh, a real bebe.
Welcome to Under the Influence.
Hey.
This is a show where we talk a little bit about film, a little bit about our favorite filmmakers. You know, maybe a little fellow named John Cassavetes might come up once or twice, but we'll save that for later. So my name's Max, and I'm trying not to talk over you.
No, please, you can talk over me. This is Mac.
I don't want to talk over you, though.
These are not nicknames. These are our born names. This is not like radio show DJ Mac and Max.
We could be coming at you, but
we could. We actually, if this fails,
we'll take it nice and easy.
We will join an AM radio station.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about, what we're here to talk about, which is film. So, and maybe some film that's not as, well known as other films. So maybe exploring some directors who don't get, the love that maybe we feel they deserve out there. I mentioned the little Greek god, John Cassavetes, earlier. Certainly somebody that we'll, talk about later. But elaborate for me on that a little bit. I'm hogging up.
Well, no, I mean, we basically were constantly bullshitting and constantly like getting on phone calls or whatever, and just talking. And usually, I mean,
imagine like is it Grease where there's like the phone call where it's like, hello, or is that Bye Bye Birdie?
Oh, Greece! Oh my! For some reason, I thought you meant the country Greece, and I was
absolutely.
Like, what do they have different phones there?
They do.
Yes. No, you're right. It's
everything
Greece.
Is played out in montage in Greece.
Exactly. No, you're thinking. No, it's Bye Bye Birdie. No, I'm sorry. You're right. It's Bye Bye Birdie. Hello. This is Morning Glory. Yeah. No, you're right. It's Bye Bye Birdie. Anyways, but yeah.
Those are the kind of segues into madness that frequently you'll encounter if you listen to this.
It shows we're deep film nerds, like, I guess. They're like,
sometimes you got to get out on that stage and dance.
I don't know. Yeah. I just dance, baby.
Elaborate.
So basically, no, we're best friends. We've known each other for like, I think, 15, 17 years or something like that.
Well, I'm not very good with dates, so I certainly won't try to put a date on it.
We've decided not to.
Yeah, boy, I remember as a young gentleman, I've seen you in a play somewhere, man. That's one of my first memories of seeing you somewhere.
We went to school together. We grew up together. We live across the country now, so we can't record this in person at all. Most of the time. Maybe we will someday. But
I know that we will.
I think we will.
I promise that we will.
Yeah, no, we've known each other a lot while. Obviously, you're a huge influence on me in terms of like getting me into a bunch of different films because you were always kind of ahead of the curve, at least for our age group.
Well, thank you. I often think of myself as a, maverick.
Well, I mean, like there are a lot of people like either they had an older brother or an older sister or like somebody to kind of be their tastemaker, and like I didn't have that. I mean, I have an older sister, but she, we're just different. She wasn't into movies or doing different things. Anyways,
feel the flattery coming on.
I know
it's beautiful. Just lather me up with flattery.
Yeah. That's what I'm here for.
It's nice and soapy. It feels good.
That's good. No, but anyways, we're constantly bullshitting about film and we're constantly talking. And you've really back in high school, I think you've helped me inspire my taste. But then we've kind of now, I think our taste is kind of like definitely still are way out of the curve on me on a lot of different things. But
now I have to live up to some goddamn like reputation that you made me out to be some clever person that I'm really just like some fucking potato who sits there and just like watches bullshit all the time. I mean, I have a lot of movies from the Criterion collection, certainly. Same. I have many leather-bound Criterions, I have that Andrei Zulawski possession with the velour on the side of it.
Leather-bound Criterions. I kind of can't believe that's not a thing. Yeah.
Well, they won't, it's controversial now that they haven't gone 4K yet. So.
Yeah.
But so, not to get off track.
But anyways, we bullshit about films. We talk about films. We talk about television and books and art and whatever we're watching. But
absolutely, we'll certainly probably we'll bring up comic books certainly because we're both a couple of
big time
homegrown comic book boys.
Yeah.
You go further back with that than I do. Even you're like you had the hard like DC Marvel education kind of thing.
Well, I think we talked about it previously as like my
back before they started making those hip Martin Scorsese roller coaster film movies. Way back when.
Yeah, no,
We'll edit that in
that's-
post. I don't know how that'll come out.
That's
That's
okay. That's another side. The comics is another sidetrack because we could talk
Sure.
about comics forever. But
Boy,
no,
it'll come
basically,
up certainly. We
we're
can't
always
help ourselves.
bullshitting and we're always sitting there talking and talking and talking. And we felt like we watched a lot of obviously like film interviews, film criticism, not film. I mean, I don't know criticism, but you know, people talk about movies, actors, directors, filmmakers, talking about movies, talking about the process, talking about like what it was like. But we kind of found that there was this gap. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there was
Sure,
kind of like gap in between like.
Absolutely. There's something like we try to hit on that sweet spot where we feel like there are a lot of filmmakers who probably, despite the fact that they have, you know, shelves of awards, you know,
Right.
for lack of a better visual, who get all of this merit and who are, you know, in the Cannes Film Festival, featured in the Venice Film Festival, who have, you know, this big attention on a global scale. And at the same time, you know, one of my favorite filmmakers is somebody who's won the Best Writer Award at the Cannes Film Festival. And you would ask, you know, probably like 95% of film fans who, you know, somebody like Hal Hartley is.
Trust and maybe Flirt might not ever be distributed on DVD because of legal craziness with
music or what? It's
No, it's this the company who had the rights went out of business. Another company bought their library and there are legal problems or something.
Wow.
And they would have no idea who you're talking about. And again, I don't know what that necessarily says. I don't, you know, his films don't get the exposure that they probably deserve.
Yeah.
But again,
I was just gonna say you're the
nobody's
only
talking about
person I've ever heard talk about Hal Hartley, and maybe that's probably just I'm not hanging out with a bunch of
Had the
filmmakers
pleasure-
or whatever.
had the pleasure of being in the same room as him even.
Yeah, no, I mean,
What
I
a
obviously,
joy.
and we talked about this too. Is like I kind of naively thought at first, like, oh, the premise of this thing is we're gonna teach people about because no one knows about them, and it's like, no,
Sure.
they're known, like they're
Oh,
famous.
sure. Somebody's
It's
gonna school us. If this goes up on YouTube, somebody will school us on every video and
yeah.
let us know what we
Oh,
what we missed and that we're wrong and how to do it right.
I can't.
So,
I'm just really looking forward to not.
hey,
reading.
we welcome those comments, and I
yes,
prefer
no, please.
physicalized.
Yeah, send me a
history if
letter,
possible.
preferably in the form of a bomb.
Oof, dark. But you know, we'll be going.
That's
dark.
the kind of comedy
Yeah.
you're gonna get.
That is cutting edge. We just lost a handful of children right there. So that's all I'm saying.
Those 10-year-olds are now not gonna listen to it.
If the happiness poster didn't already give away the fact that we're gonna be like pruning away casual viewers, you know,
Oh,
Wait.
okay.
slowly.
So yeah. So we basically we just wanted to record. Give us a chance because we work together creatively. We've also grown up together. We're best friends.
Sure, we're
we-
collaborative. We're collaborative partners. We've written
Yeah.
things together. Not to go into it to
Yeah,
brag about
yeah.
all of our incredible achievements that
Oh
we don't
God. Oh.
have. But yeah, we're both people who have a little bit of creative education,
Yeah.
a little bit of school. Both went to college. Both, you know,
Yep.
spent that money in a good way and
Oh,
learned how to
baby.
be creative and artistic.
Oh man, that expensive that piece of paper, man, is just. Whew,
It looks good though.
it's
so
pricey. It's nice. It's very nice.
make it into like a T-shirt.
Ooh. Oh, that'd be nice.
So we really want to talk about certain, you know, filmmakers again.
Mhm.
Despite the fact that we have very similar tastes sometimes, we are two separate individuals, certainly. So
It's true.
we do have different obsessions and fascinations, but many times they do converge with one another. So, I mean, we literally have a list where we're going to go through and we're going to explore some of these so-called auteurs, as Francois Truffaut would tell you they are called, which
Even
is like,
though
go ahead.
I'm gonna give a real hot
Just
take.
give me a hot take.
And maybe we lost just five
French New Wave
French
cinema
people who
fans.
don't
yeah,
wanna listen
sure,
to this.
of course.
But I'm not a big Truffaut fan,
Oh,
and I don't think you
Hot
are either.
take.
I don't think that's.
well, it's
I haven't seen a lot of his films, fair,
Sure,
but
sure.
what I've seen
we're not going to be covering Francois Truffaut. So
exactly.
We're not gonna be,
That's perfect, and that's a good lead into what we can
yes.
talk about.
So what we're going to be talking about on, you know, the show is going to be basically directors who haven't gotten, you know, the mainstream exposure that obviously we can supply because our connections are limitless.
Endless, dude.
We'll talk a little bit about, as I said, our French friends would call the auteur theory, which is just briefly kind of where we're going to come from when we're talking about films. So the way that you and I have explored film and has been kind of like an interesting way to get an idea of what a filmmaker is and the ideas that they're going to explore, is to just start from the beginning and watch everything chronologically and just kind of take that journey and watch them grow as a filmmaker and learn about them and see how they learn about themselves. And just between the two of us, I mean, we've just found it to be an incredibly fruitful, rewarding experience almost every time. I mean, certainly we've watched films by these directors, but then having that opportunity to watch them in succession and discuss them just makes it so much more pleasurable.
Yeah, I totally agree.
The pleasure.
The one thing I'm thinking of is, because you mentioned us watching films by director, and I'm honestly trying to. I come from the days, and again, we're not like some fucking old men at this point, but we're getting older.
I'm feeling
we come from the days of, we used to post the movies that we watch daily, because again, we weren't always like close in proximity, so we couldn't talk about it all the time. But
Did you post them back on an MS-DOS floppy disk?
I had a track of my movies. No, I don't think I've ever even tried using
Phantom of the Paradise soundtrack on 8-track.
That would be cool. I'm sure
I don't think that ever happened,
now,
unfortunately.
Just like the people who collect VHS, there are people who collect 8-track, and they're like, this is the best quality.
Well, there's some stuff, there's some stuff that never made it off of 8-track, I'm sure.
That's fine. But when someone's like, I want to watch the VHS copy of this movie, and you're like, there's a Blu-ray of it, they're like, this is better. It's like,
some people have a vintage taste. They want to experience it.
It is the
as it was meant to be.
It is the David Cross character in Mr. Show.
It's a mini Victrola, and it allows me to listen to the only decent music ever committed to vinyl.
Vinyl?
Yes.
So essentially, we're going to kind of come at it from a director-based angle. So
yeah. I guess I'm sorry to diverge from the track a little bit, but how did we get
it?
Was it college?
Jump back on that track.
Or just something like, I don't know when it was, and again, dates aren't really important, but like at some point you and I figured out that like picking a director and starting right from the beginning was not only like a really great way just to watch like new movies you hadn't seen, but like you do really like, and it's not every director. Sometimes I'm currently watching Michael Mann films.
Sure, it's not as some directors it just doesn't work as well.
Love his films. He's an interesting person, but I'm not really concerned with watching a lot of interviews with him. Right before that, William Friedkin.
Oh, I'm like you. I have no regrets about Only God Forgives. I think it's a masterpiece, and it is. I just didn't make it very expensive.
Is there a doctor in the house? We need to get a medic in here. Is there a doctor around?
I just didn't make it.
If you think that's a masterpiece, what is Citizen Kane?
It's great, but it was inexpensive.
I'm obsessed with him. He's fascinating.
And again, different people are going to hit you different ways, certainly, and everybody's got their preferences. But
I wonder how we got to exploring people just by direct. Again, it doesn't matter. Maybe it's irrelevant.
Yeah,
but
no. I mean, I was always coming at it from a collecting angle. So as a kid, I was a big collector, and we talk about how, we watched just like endless VHS, that we came from the generation where parents would get a room of kids together and they would just plop you down in front of a TV and stick a tape in, and we would watch, as you just said, Willy Wonka like 600 times. So that's the generation that we came from. So again, that and me created this almost like collector mentality of that I had all these videotapes that I wanted to collect, and then that spiraled into DVDs and
that's
Blu-rays and so on and so forth. And
then you try to find these reasons for collecting and try to like, how can I rationalize like my collection? Like, how can I organize it, or how can I change it so it's not just like things I like and like it adds another layer, and then eventually you start.
I mean, for me, I can go back and pull that. I really enjoy the Universal monster films.
Now at the spectacular price of $14.98 each, suggested retail. Frankenstein, Dracula.
Dracula, Frankenstein, and definitely those came in box sets. Universal did those in box sets on VHS, and those definitely gave me like a sense of chronology and how those movies occurred.
Ew, that's a good
belong. So that certainly like
I never thought about that.
Formed some kind of a loose idea of how that stuff worked for me.
That's interesting.
I came into DVDs. I was collecting a lot of DVDs. I was Criterion Collection.
You had Criterion.
Whenever, not right away, but maybe around 2002, 2003.
Did you have laser discs?
I didn't have laser. No, we weren't a laser disc family, but we definitely jumped into DVD. And like I said, I can remember getting my pride and joy. I think my first DVD was the Wild Wild West Snapper case. the Barry Sonnenfeld masterpiece.
That is
But
amazing.
speaking of auteurs, Barry Sonnenfeld. But we're gonna talk about John Cassavetes. We're gonna talk about who else. Who else is another director that we're gonna focus on?
Well, I don't want to give away.
Spoiler alert.
No,
John Cassavetes has been given away at this
for
point.
2 people listening. No, because we also, not that it's like something we want to avoid, but we do think about like just for example, when I'm watching films by director, I look at a director and I'm like, oh, Sidney Lumet, I want to watch all his movies, but he has like 45 movies. And
Sure,
it's like,
absolutely.
This is great, but I can't possibly
So maybe we're
going
to be there to offer you almost an express version of the Sidney Lumet experience.
Very true.
We're going to be there to give you the spark notes of the Sidney Lumet experience.
No, very true. I just say Sidney Lumet because I'm talking about in terms of how I choose directors. And so I do try to choose something that's manageable in terms of like, okay, well, I have a day
Sidney
job.
Lumet's a little bit unwieldy.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to be watching Sidney Lumet films for the next 4 months. Like I want
and then
to like
even again, not somebody that we're necessarily going to be talking about, but even like the Coen brothers could be almost like an unwieldy.
Absolutely.
You know,
and so that's definitely something down the line. Again, like
they have a lot of films, is what I didn't say there.
Yeah, if there was a momentum where it's like, oh, we want to pick someone like the Coen brothers, and like, oh, that makes sense.
But ultimately what we're trying to say is that we're gonna come at you from a programming standpoint, in that we're gonna choose a director, and not to give things away here, but Todd Solondz is gonna be our first director who we explore. So he's an American independent. He's one of the probably I hate to kind of throw like textbook terms out because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, despite that I may have pretended to read those textbooks. Yeah. But he's definitely like one of the last big American independent filmmakers, if that's a fair of the old style before digital.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
You could immediately,
I'm not
immediately come at me and say like, oh, well, what about like the Safdie brothers or somebody like that who's very like young and very like hip right now, and is somewhat of an independent filmmaker. But he's definitely, I think, the last of a dying breed.
I'm not in depth enough into the film world where I can be like, well, this person's getting this much funding and this person got this much funding.
Sure.
So
but I think you're cutting yourself a little bit short. I think you can definitely. Yeah. I think you can definitely put in.
I mean, I can take a big picture and look at it and be like, yeah, it seems like.
Well, how
many films have the Softies made? It's an interesting comparison.
Maybe, but that's good. But these guys are making really, really small films on like very small budgets on digital.
Yeah,
films.
And technology is different too. You know what I'm saying?
So,
like
I'm talking
Todd
about.
He's mostly shooting on 35 for the most part for a while at least.
Absolutely, yeah. So he's kind of like that. One of those, in my mind, those last big guys who was able to like get up the funding for a big major motion picture, who was able to,
before the streaming world took over.
Sure, before digital happened. And again, he's somebody who very much embraced digital, and that's something he would.
It's worked for him.
He shot, if I'm not mistaken, I think Dark Horse and Wiener Dog were shot on the Red One, or one of those was.
Oh, interesting.
So
right.
He's very much at the forefront of technology on that end, but he talks about it himself, and
it's never been easy to get money for films made outside the studio system. It's always been very, very difficult. But I think now the difficulties have moved into another phase where I don't think there's any going back to the benign. It's really difficult. Now, the market has redefined what makes economic sense and what is possible for a filmmaker outside of the studio system to function. And movies continue to get made, and I think will continue to get made, and I think there will continue to be very impressive and surprising work to come. However, there's much less money to invest in these films.
We're starting to get into the nitty-gritty of Todd Solondz here. Not to just dive right in, but he mentions how he can barely get a movie made anymore, and he just waits for these opportunities to present themselves.
He
just waits for that right moment.
and this is jumping way ahead, but like his movie Love Child that he's talked about making. That, I mean, it's on IMDb. It has a full cast almost.
Sure. Well, it's fallen apart a couple times, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The money didn't come together.
He doesn't
I
get
think
enough
it's
money,
in
yeah.
Spain is where they're shooting it. It's somewhere outside of the United States. And it's like, that brings us full circle to the fact that somebody who, at this point, again, I know that we're talking about filmmakers who maybe you guys haven't heard about, or maybe who you're not as familiar with, but I know it's kind of hard to see on the poster, but it has the laureate banner on top. That's for the 1998 Cannes Film Festival. And they won the International Critics Prize. And again, we're talking about a filmmaker who was at the Cannes Film Festival.
And the year, I mean, not even the year before that. Sorry, the film before that, he's winning. The Critics Prize at Sundance.
He won the jury prize for Welcome to the Dollhouse in '95.
I mean, he's
gotten the awards. He's gotten
he's gotten the international success, and basically like in the film circuit, it's like, whoa, like this guy's for real.
Absolutely, he's a force to be reckoned with. He's an American voice. He's a distinctive filmmaker, and it's simply that somebody who has had this much success cannot even get a film made. And again, not that he needs our help, and not that we're going to be able to do a damn thing about it, but certainly,
it's fun to talk about.
The least we can do is try to talk about these guys and maybe
celebrate
and celebrate them, and hope that maybe one more person sees the movie and says, wow, this is really affecting and is, horrifying or beautiful or both at the same time, and I want to go out and I want to do something.
Oh, absolutely. Not
again,
even if it's like I want to make films. It's like, no, do whatever you want. Just be creative. Just do something. And it's the only reason I say that is because, I mean,
we're both buoyed by the John Cassavetes spirit of it's life and creativity, which is the man was electric with just love and kind of encouraged everyone to just like shake them out of the fucking oblivion that television has lulled them into that you're watching right now. Brain drain.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say we are both in the like cult of Cassavetes.
Absolutely.
And we are just
You'll have to deal with us.
Yeah, no, it's the idea of like whatever you do, whatever it is, as long as you're passionate doing something creative, or not, I mean, yes, creative, and just making like whatever your art is or whatever, just do it and do it with full passion. And then if you can bring someone else in and like bring this kind of web of like, there is this kind of community and communion, like, that sounds
love.
Weird.
It's that identification. It's like that identification that each individual person has something beautiful about them, and has ethereal,
just like this kind of bigger than like life, just like
absolutely.
We're getting kind of like bong hit theory sort of thing.
Sure, that's gonna happen. The name of the show is Under the Influence, and we're not
UTI.
The most attractive acronym, certainly.
Just the best thing.
But we
got a bad UTI.
We definitely want to infect you with our certain brand of film discussion. But John Cassavetes is somebody who's literally he's infectious. I mean, not to that, I didn't do that on purpose either, but he's literally, I mean, he's somebody who, you watch a movie, and this is something that we kind of skimped over earlier, but you watch something like Faces.
Oh. You mean he goes. you mean he goes.
And it's just like maybe that's a bad example because that's a 2.5.
It gives you life.
3-hour movie, but
it just
you watch something like that,
a reason to live. Like at least for me. And you know what? It's some people. For them, film is not that medium. That's fine. I don't fucking care. That's not the people who are going to be listening to this.
But we want to show you that it can be that medium.
And for the people who are maybe younger or whatever, it's like, no, this can be something to, even if it's
Who is John Cassavetes?
Yeah, that's good. I love Cassavetes, dude.
He's definitely juicy, that's for sure.
But I mean, so we chose Todd Solondz because he kind of fell under that same umbrella of John Cassavetes, where it's like
absolutely
popular guy with film people, but like maybe like
Hey man, Todd Solondz is in the Criterion Collection. Life During War Times got the spine, you know.
Somehow that's like the only one. It's very strange.
If you're not familiar with the Criterion Collection, which we've already mentioned many times, this is clearly a paid advertisement for the Criterion Collection. So thank you, Criterion Collection, for supplying us with your beautiful 4K restored transfers and depth.
Thank you for all the free
depth
Blu-rays
of special
that I know you're
features.
going to send because I've mentioned this.
Hey, I don't have that Ingmar Bergman box set. You can get my address.
I don't
but not
have a copy of The Third Man or The Man Who Fell to Earth.
I
Perhaps
do. Cha-ching!
Shut up. Perhaps I could be sent a copy.
The Criterion.
I love the Criterion Collection, and I think it is a #1.
They're not watching anymore. They already turned it off.
Nothing more than feelings. Trying to forget my feelings of love.
So, naturally, the first thing that you do after you get a BA from Yale is you immediately go to New York University and try to become a filmmaker.
Right. And he was.
That seems like the natural progression, obviously.
Right.
Any genius.
But he also I don't know the timeline specifically, but he did work as like a delivery boy for like the Writers Guild of America. So I feel like
a very interesting career segue.
That's probably like an interesting. Like he gets his BA in English from Yale. He's back and he's like, I want to live in the city, and he's delivering scripts for like the Writers Guild. So it makes sense. He's like, oh, I got that. And he's already a writer and he's probably already writing scripts. So like, yeah, it always makes it totally, his trajectory makes a lot of sense, but at the same time, I don't know.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting because not many people go to Yale and then turn around and go to film school.
Yeah.
That's the smartest motherfucker who ever went to film school that I've ever known. So,
makes sense though. Yeah.
It does. So
he's a talented writer. He's clearly
absolutely, he's a writer.
He's a
writer. As in the spirit of Samuel Beckett. And he certainly from out of the gate, he's almost an incredible filmmaker. And I don't say that lightly. I say that as somebody who's very critical and harsh of film and unkind.
He says in interviews that in college he kind of had this pressure because after his shorts, he was kind of seen as like the it kid. And so that kind of had this added pressure. And so when I read that, I was a little skeptical because I'm like, okay, well, like how good are your like 2-minute shorts? And
they are fantastic.
I mean, we talked about feeling, but John Waters would be proud.
His first short that he does at NYU in '84 is called Feelings, and it's available online. You can stop the video right now and you can watch it.
Yeah.
Feelings, for all my life I'll feel it. I wish you'd never left me alone with only feelings. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Feelings.
But check it out. And honestly, I watched it. And again, maybe I'm being a little more generous with these because
I don't think so.
Having kind of experienced similar, school and filmmaking kind of stuff, that I can get an idea of where he was coming from the fact that you're basically limited in so many ways with film school projects that you're just trying to make anything that's fucking interesting out of a very tight parameter with very, no money, just anybody who will be kind enough to work with you and give you their time. So when you see something like Feelings, I mean, I was absolutely blown away. Like I said, I think to you, that was my first reaction was if I was in his class in film school, I would have fucking hung it up, man, right after I saw that shit. And I was like, nope, this isn't the career for you, partner. This guy is going to be a fucking success. I mean, I could see it. I feel like you could see it right away. His shot choice. I mean, everything.
It's so... And
he's
again,
he's like fully formed right away.
I say this so unpretentiously, like I'm like I don't fucking.
You are so unpretentious.
I'm just
pretentious son of a bitch.
It is. It's so well formed. The only thing that's lacking is like simply like technology. It's like he's on like a shitty camera.
He's probably shooting on a 16mm, Aeroflex camera.
It's so
Bolex. I'm sorry, not Aeroflex. How could I?
I don't even know. I mean, it's like
was that Todd Solondz coming through there?
It's just really well formed and it's so like mature already.
It was something that immediately my first reaction was like, that's something that would have made John Waters smile.
Right.
And again, he's coming at you. We can only tell you so much without you actually having watched the video, but we're going to assume that you went back. We're going to assume that you went back and you watched the video because free Todd Solondz. I mean, come on, let's watch it. So in the video, it's about a young man who is played by the lovely, young, beautiful Todd Solondz. a young man, and he shot in black and white, you know, as you do in film school on those 16mm shorts. And it's about a character who is contemplating the loss of his beloved, and he's maybe thinking about casting himself onto the shallow rocks below in some beautiful beach on the East Coast.
I'm surprised he didn't act more. I'm surprised. You know what I mean?
I think he's shy. I think he's just shy about.
I think
showing
he,
up on
of course,
camera.
yeah. I think
He's really
great.
good though. He's a fantastic actor.
yeah.
He does a second black and white short at
yep.
NYU, which is Babysitter in 1984. Feelings
Yep.
was also in 1984,
Yep.
which are kind of him just first starting out. And again, he talks about it a lot in interviews. I don't want to try to get too specific, but at some point he kind of becomes disillusioned with NYU and decides that maybe film school wasn't the right place for him, and that it's not maybe the best choice for how to spend his money and his time. So,
as a fellow, I'm sure you and I
Right?
both can relate to that.
we can both
liberal
relate to
arts
that
degree.
creative arts maybe not being the best choice for schooling, but
Not to spend your money on it, you know.
you'll be much happier in the long run, and you'll be much more creative too. So he ends up making one, at least as far as we know, his last film he makes at NYU is Shat's Last Shot, which is a little
Right.
more substantial and almost like
Absolutely. I think it's 13 minutes, and that is also
it's somewhere around
free.
there.
It's free on YouTube again.
All right, Coach. 3 o'clock on the court. We'll see who's a loser.
I'm going to lose.
Just completely free on YouTube. It's
So no
ridiculous.
problem. We'll include
I'm
a link where
sure
you can jump
after we
down.
post this, it'll get taken down.
Absolutely,
It would
because
make
the
more
two
sense.
people who see this will be our moms, and well, that's 2 people. So
That's it.
our moms. I was gonna say Todd Solondz. He'll just be there to take it down. So
He's just like,
he's waiting.
yeah.
He's heard. So I feel like we finally got around to watching Shat's Last Shot as we've kind of been going through these. It took us a minute to get started with the shorts, but we both got to Shat's Last Shot because neither of us had seen his first film, Fear, Anxiety,
No.
and Depression. I
No.
mean,
I was kind of staying away. I mean, I wasn't staying away from it, but
I was only aware of it because it never had a DVD release.
Yeah.
It was one of those that was stuck on VHS forever. He's kind of disowned the movie. He doesn't really like it to be talked about, doesn't really discuss it in interviews.
No.
I actually we've watched a lot of interviews, and he's never brought it up in a single
He
interview.
doesn't bring up his shorts. I've never heard
He
of.
doesn't talk about him. So this is it. We're here
no one asks
to
him.
let you know, and
That's
we're
the
here to
thing.
explore those
exactly.
shorts.
Like
They're
if
wonderful.
on-
They're really
if on-
incredible.
Yeah, exactly. On some strange occasion, I would ever
It's-
get a time to be like, with Todd Solondz, I'd be like, dude,
It's such a strong.
I really liked Feelings, man. That shit was
Yeah,
great.
It's such
you
a
know,
strong
and-
start, and it's so fully
Yeah.
formed, and his voice is there, and his worldview is so just distinctive.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
The filmmaker
his voice is so clear. It's
literally
right away. It's so well formed, but again, it's like that's the voice that he has. It's like this complete. It's this underdog that's this clear character throughout each film. You know what I mean? And if only it just keeps growing and getting more 3-dimensional and more kind of like into a window into like Solondz himself.
and it's a very natural growth, and it's definitely him getting the opportunity to explore those ideas in what, again, as I might have
Yeah.
labeled him incorrectly as being one of the last American independents, but in that sense that, wow, he was a guy who came out of film school. He didn't even graduate from NYU. He said, you know what, he did Shat's Last Shot, and he was like, fuck this, I'm done. This isn't how you become an artist. You do. That's how you become an artist. And he basically just fucked off and was able to put together the funding. As you've mentioned to me before, people were offering him the opportunities to make film, but he turned, as far as we know, he turned them down.
Studios, yeah.
And ended up making his own screenplay, which is Fear, Anxiety, and Depression. And boy, that's a film that certainly speaks absolutely volumes about him, even though I've heard him say many times in interviews that it's not autobiographical. But he definitely in that one, we know he puts himself into his work, certainly in that, Dawn Wiener is a little bit of him, absolutely, but we also know that he's not a 12-year-old girl, so
Sure, yeah. He talks about how like all his work is autobiographical in some sense of that, like he's gone through similar things or experienced similar like emotions and experiences that he can empathize and relate to.
Life, death, it's just so depressing.
But what depressing is good.
All the shorts, and I kind of mentioned this before, and this is not to trivialize or compartmentalize Todd Solondz in any way, but I really feel that fear, anxiety, depression is sort of this like culmination of like this character that he was kind of creating. Absolutely. And it was like sort of autobiographical. Obviously it's him. It's him in all these movies. So it's a little like him.
Sure, despite he may claim that it is
it's an exaggeration.
It is literally him. So we cannot
it's clear
take that
that
for
it's
anything
like
but face.
It is, and we've said this before, and we can talk about this more when we get into the first film. It has this kind of Woody Allen quality of like, it's kind of this same character that he just kind of keeps putting in different situations and in different places and in different, environments.
Absolutely. I think that that's a good tool for a young filmmaker. And I think that's
absolutely, because again,
a way to find your voice is to kind of like have a character and,
use that as your vehicle.
Sure. Absolutely.
It's Gil 2. Come on, hurry up and come on down or we're going to be late for Jack and Janice's dinner party. I want you to come down and take off that frown, 'cause I love you!
I think that an important point to make about fear, anxiety, and depression is that not only is it a continuation of that character arc that he kind of started with those shorts, but that my main takeaway was, holy shit, I'm literally watching a Woody Allen film sandwiched between, Sleeper and Bananas.
Back up quick, you little prick! Back it up! Jesus, what the fuck do you do right? Anything? I can't believe it! I got fucking luck! I could kill him! Unbelievable! I get no luck! Ira, the pole! We don't do poles, we do glass! Come on, over here! Move it! Come on! I got a schedule! Got a lot of stops to make, a lot of people to see, let's go! You put a break in that, I'll put a break in you! I swear to God! Lift it up! What the fuck you doing?
I think that the interesting thing, regardless of that, will never solve the mystery of if this is in fact an intentional Woody Allen tribute, is that God damn it, regardless of if that's true or not, this is a fucking fantastic first film.
He doesn't give enough credit.
He obviously, we're not to sell him short and say that this is all this Woody Allen bullshit. He really does still have his own voice and continues that very unique trajectory in fear, anxiety, and depression. And that he's somebody who's obsessed with trying to make this play. Just to give a brief synopsis without getting too deep into the story, please watch the movie. It's really hard to get a hold of, but it's on VHS. Do whatever you can to get a hold of it.
It's episode 1. It's we're discussing Todd Solondz, but mostly the episodes moving forward will always be one film per episode.
Sure.
Unless we're starting a new director or a new topic, or maybe we're just talking about something different and we move away from just movie directors.
We're gonna take you.
For now, it's just.
Yeah, we're gonna take you on an adventure through film, and we're gonna go director by director as we hold hands and celebrate Todd Solondz. So each episode,
Don't hold my hand, please.
So in the
No, I don't want to hold your hand when we watch Happiness.
Only just for a little while.
Yeah.
Promise I won't put anything in your tuna salad sandwich.
Oh.
But Under the Influence is going to be a bit of a freewheeling, journey. It's going to be.
We're starting.
We're under the influence, certainly, and it gets later and later, mind you, as we record. So It
Yeah,
won't
I
always
think-
be as loose as we are now, but perhaps it'll tighten up and we'll be able to take you on an
hope so.
informative
Well,
and exciting
with
journey.
with
Yeah, I mean, if you stuck around to the end, thank you. It's
Yeah, no, I'm
beautiful.
excited.
I'm sure we'll cobble something together out of this. You know, and if you
Absolutely.
have time, stick around. See,
Real-
hit the subscribe button. Boy, I've always wanted to say that. You
there
know,
is no subscribe button.
hit the subscribe button because boy, this is
should-
on YouTube.
Put yeah,
Get
put
on
the
the
subscribe
tube.
button like on the cat or something.
There you go. So, again, maybe you'll
no,
join
but-
us for the next episode for the exploration of Todd Solondz' Welcome to the Dollhouse. Perhaps you'll never watch another video we make ever again, or a podcast, or whatever form this discussion takes. So,
I'm guessing the second, but that's good because I don't want to talk to you anyways.
Oh.
Junk, I'm a neat kind of guy. Look at me, babe, and sigh. You're gonna love me the rest of your days. I can see it in your eyes, I can see it in your gaze. So hey, you don't have to be shy. You can call me I. Just look in my heart and you'll see a neat kind of guy. Over and over in so many ways. Here's what I'm saying. Look in my heart and you'll see a neat kind of guy.